need to decide how you will measure being paid. Identify where you are and where you want to be on that investment continuum or that revenue generation continuum, and create a plan that's measurable, and measure yourself and improve and improve and improve until you get to the price point or the revenue generation point that you know you want to be at. The beauty in all of this is it doesn't matter where you sit, you can be and charge more. So welcome back to episode number 6. And this one is all about how much money can you make from speaking? Now, whenever anyone asks me how much money they can make from speaking, I literally want to sink into the floor. And it's not because I don't know and I can't answer, but it's literally a case of that it could be one of a million different answers. And on any given day, I sometimes think that a million different answers is not an exaggeration for this one. Now, the reason why this question is so crazy is because it's contextual. It depends on your level of skill. It depends on your ecosystem. It depends on your products and services. It depends on your message. It depends on the market. Some people have incredible messages and there's no market that will actually pay for it no matter how much they love you. There are so many things that it depends on. But one thing I can tell you is that when you get speaking-driven strategies right, they rock your universe financially. And what I mean by this is I've actually used these strategies personally, the ones that I now teach other people, to grow 6, 7, and 8-figure business growth back before I even knew professional speaking was actually a thing. And what I can also tell you is that some of the greatest speakers on the planet earn 7 and 8 figures just from speaking. Probably not 8 figures, probably 7 figures, to be honest. And those that earn 7 and 8 figures is because they have this incredible ecosystem around them. So it literally depends on what you're bringing to the table, where you're sitting on the continuum of pricing and investment and value, and how that all pulls together for you and your actual objectives. Like, are you actually measuring in revenue terms, or are you measuring in leads, or are you measuring in partnerships, or are you measuring in collaboration, or are you measuring in one great big venture capital deal? Like, what is it that you're measuring? Is it just fees for speaking, or is it total revenue generated? Is it just fees for speaking, or is it the collaborations you really need to elevate and take your product or your service to the next level? Is it just fees for speaking, or is it that every time you speak, you get 5 more bookings? So what is it? The answer to that is it could be anything. You could earn 6 figures, or you could earn $6, and it's actually really up to you. That is the beauty of it. So I thought for this particular topic, it might be best to give you some examples that I'm across, and then also walk you through, for those more leaning towards the professional speaking fees, walking you through what that continuum of investment looks like. So where you sit on that continuum of investment and what people think they will get for what they're willing to pay you. So probably should start off with my own experience. So I have driven 6, 7, and 8-figure growth through speaker-driven strategies. I first did it, if you listen to episode 0, I first did it actually in working alongside my mother and taking over her business, in a family-owned business in regional Queensland. What was really interesting was once I actually got a real handle on the strategy side of speaking, we went from 3.6 to about $4.2 million in turnover. And this is back in the early 2000s when $1 million businesses weren't on every corner. We went from 3.6 to about 4.2 million in about 22 months. So for us, that was, or 2 years, for us, that was pretty average growth. We were very comfortable, very profitable, very established, and very happy. Once these speaking driven strategies really kicked in though, our business went from 4.2 million to 22.4 million in 15 months. Now, would I say that speaking is 100% responsible for it? No, we had systems, we had people, we had clients, we had products, the whole infrastructure was right. But our key strategy to market to drive that growth was speaking, right? And it is what made the difference at that particular point in time. It's also how I actually drove an IR negotiating consultancy business that I had. So I launched a HR generalist consulting, and we moved very quickly into IR, industrial relations negotiations. Now that entire consultancy business got to just on 7 figures out of a small little village on the coast of central Queensland here in Australia. And the reason I did that was I had a business building presentation, and I didn't actually launch that consultancy until I had put that together, because by then I understood the power of it. Now that took us straight to 5-figure trading and very quickly to 6-figure trading. And what it also did was it made sure that we had the right people come towards us and the right people leave the room, because I didn't want to play with idiots, right? I can tell you that business, the only strategy that I had was speaking. The only strategy. We spent no money on marketing, no money on advertising. I didn't have an email and I didn't have a newsletter. And that business went to just on 7 figures in just on 10 months in a small regional center, because speaking gave us profile, identity, credibility. And it also meant that we got rid of the people that we didn't want to work with, who didn't align with our philosophies, which is the unspoken benefit. So that was 7 figures within 10 months. The biggest client, not the biggest client that we worked with from a revenue perspective, but the biggest client we worked with from a prestige perspective actually came from a room that I was speaking in. Now, let me walk you through it. It was a room that I was speaking in. There was somebody in the room. We'd actually been trying to knock on their door for quite some time. It had been about 2 years. We've been trying to get entry into this business. We knew they had challenges and we knew that my skill set could help them. We had not got anywhere. We could not even get a relationship building with the gatekeepers, let alone the decision makers. And so in this particular room, I delivered my speaking and I had no idea really who was in the room. I just knew it was the industry that was my choice of operating in. As we're leaving, one of my para consultants was traveling with me, and she was standing beside me, and this guy who I hadn't actually liked his attitude most of the time, and he was dressed in just, a pair of jeans and an old polo shirt. Hello, mining, should have realized there was something going on. But he came up at the end and he said, I'd love to have a coffee with you at some stage or have a meeting. I think we've got some things going on that you could help me with. And I was that disinterested that I literally handed the business card straight to my consultant who was standing beside me and said, that would be amazing. Next time we're coming to town, I'll ring and let you know. I'd love to set something up. No intention of doing it. As we're getting in the lift, Phoebe, my consultant, says to me, Jack, you need to look at this card. I said, not interested. We're heading straight to an on-site negotiation. I said, I'll look at it later. She goes, no, you need to look at it. She hands the card to me and I look down and it is the CFO from this $400 million business that we've been trying to get entry to. We could not get entry to it for love nor money, and we knew we wanted to be in there. He heard me speak, he reached out, and they turned into one of our best projects. And not only that CFO took me with him to his next 2 roles. Don't underestimate the power of speaking. I can't even quantify for you on the run right now what that was worth for me, but it was definitely in the 6-figure amounts over a 2 to 3 year period, multiple 6-figure amounts. We also have, if I think about my clients, there are so many different case studies and success stories, but the one that comes immediately to mind is a woman by the name of Kate. Now, Kate ended up in one of my earlier workshops, and I was really surprised to see her because she was speaking on the Brisbane circuit, had been for years, was really loved. Everybody loved her. Anyway, she turned up in my workshop because she had heard me speak at an event, and she realized that even though she loved speaking, even though people always got her back, she'd actually never generated any work out of it. So she loved it and she was loved. So we took what she had and we reshaped it. And she was going to be speaking for the 3rd year in a row at a very big event with 100 business owners and entrepreneurs in the room. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go. I'm going to sit on her table. I'm going to see what the difference is, because I'd seen her speak the year before. When she finished speaking, you could have heard a pin drop. Nobody moved. Then they all got to their feet and applauded. So first of all, nobody moved. Then it was a standing ovation. When she got back to the table, because I was on the table, I remember people saying, Kate, where did that come from? Like, where have you been hiding? Like, this is amazing. She rang me the next day, and as a result of delivering that particular keynote, which was deliberately to build her business, she didn't sell, she didn't seed a pitch, she didn't talk about her products and services once. The way that we shaped that particular keynote speech as a business build presentation, she actually sold out one of her coaching programs, which was about $120,000 in revenue. She picked up a private retained client, and she got asked to go and speak at a conference on Hamilton Island. Now, because of what we covered in the workshop, she knew what to ask for. So she actually quickly asked for a 5K fee, and it was in school holidays. So she asked for flights for her husband, and her 3 children, because that was her dream, and the accommodation to be extended to 5 nights. And she got it. She didn't even go in intending to get a conference gig, right? So that generated for her more than about $150,000 out of one event, plus and all expenses paid to Hamilton Island with her children for the school holidays. You can't beat that, and you can't make this up. The other thing that we see is successful speakers who are in this very high 6 to 7 figure range, and they have an ecosystem available. So they have merch. So one of my colleagues in the US was a mime by profession, and he has juggling balls as part of his keynote presentation. And people were starting to ask him about the juggling balls. So for years now, it has been part of the package. You buy him and you buy the juggling balls, and they go in the trade halls or to delegates or whatever it might be. We have other people who make money through embedding online courses and follow-up support to embed the learnings. We have other colleagues who use books. There's this whole combination. So you can get to 6 figures as a speaker. You can get to multiple 6 figures with an ecosystem. You can get to 7 figures as a business builder. You can actually get to 7 figures as a speaker. You can get to 8 figures as a speaker who's a business builder and an expert. You can create multi-million-dollar impact, generational impact for your charity or your movement. It is literally, what do you want to do? How far do you want to take this? What have you actually got? And is your language, is your message, is your storytelling, is your craft, your insights, your expectations, the value that you bring, is it enough to generate the money that you want? I remember years and years ago, a mentor saying to me, if you want to sell a $100,000 program, what needs to be in that $100,000 program for someone to say, that is a no-brainer decision, I will buy that? Right? We're looking at that all the time for what we do in our business here. And as speakers, we quite often overlook it. If we're not earning the money we want to earn, what do we need to do to earn that money? Because literally you can create your own destiny here, whether it's directly through your speaking fees, as I said, or whether it's a combination of speaking fees and business revenue, or whether it's purely to drive business revenue. You get to create how much money. You get to nominate that number. It's up to you. So, what is it that you want? Consulting, coaching, business growth, speaking, being in demand, repeat bookings, being sought out, becoming a commentator. Think about all the things that you want, and think about the level of speaking that you want to be paid at, or you want your speaking to generate, and go and be good enough for that, right? So in summary, I thought it would be actually a really good idea to run you through the continuum of investment for professional speaking, what expectations are, not because all of you listening want to be a professional speaker, but it just might give you some sort of an indicator or guide. So I'm going to run you through from sort of 0 to 100K, the pricing scale that exists. Now, speaking fees are between 50 and 100K, right up to 250,000, and some higher. That end of the spectrum is obviously for the celebrities, for the influencers, for the global sporting heroes, and the global politicians, ex-politicians. That is the other end of the spectrum to what most of you will be experiencing. We're going to come back here to free and work our way up from there. So free speaking is free. It could actually be that your messaging is incredible and your demand is great, but you don't know how to monetize it, but free. Once we hit, if we want to be earning sort of $1,500 to $2,500, that's kind of your lunch and learn, your internal networking events, your internal delivery. It's $1,500 to $2,500 is easy for you to deliver lunch and learn basic style, right? So instructional, not that anything's instructional, but instructional undertones, learning undertones. Okay. $3,000 fee is usually where we're starting at. Now, this is actually, I've learned from working with people across Australia, New Zealand, Bali, and the US. This is relatively universal. Where the differences come in between the Australian and US market in particular, I'll talk about in a moment. So $3,000, you're starting out, you've got enough with you that you've got a well-crafted keynote or signature speaking piece. People respond to it and people want you in their rooms. That's your $3,000 fee. $5,000 is actually the average fee for most speakers. $5,000 to $6,000 is the average fee for most speakers. You can very comfortably sit here and be in demand for a very long time. Generally speaking, once we can get you to crack through to $5,000 or $6,000, we know that you've got what it takes to go further should you choose to. Now, we've got some speakers sitting in the $3,000 part within our community, some sitting at the $5,000. And at both those levels, at both $3,000 and $5,000, they are more than happy to stay there. This is all a personal choice. When you want to push to that $7,000 to $8,000 mark, your information, your insights, and your intellectual property must be proprietary and unique. We're looking for something different at this level. And then to push to 12 to 15,000, they are our top speakers in Australia. So they are the people who have mastered the craft, who land the message, who know how to engage the audience, who understand repeat business and the value that they bring. Our top speakers also invest heavily in the craft. They have invested in the craft of speaking all the way through. It's no accident that these people are at the top of the game, being paid what they want. We do have speakers in Australia from the $15,000 to $20,000 mark. That is the next level again. That is usually coming out of entrepreneurship. That is usually coming out of something that is very unique. So that's kind of where we get to. And then from there, we kind of bump up to the celebrity level. Now, the waiver to that is if you are going to be speaking in the US, then as an Australian, then your fees will be 2 to 3 times what they are in Australia. But be aware that your stagecraft needs to be next level because most of your stages will be a lot bigger than anything you experience here in Australia. Our speakers from Australia do make very successful transitions across to the US, but it's not for the faint of heart and it is a big leap. So there is a reason for those increase in fees, and that's because of where you're expected to perform. So that should give you a little bit of an outline of some context for the pricing from a professional speaking fee perspective. It is all contextual. That is my waiver. It is all contextual. Every single person most people that I work with have very different speaking fee structures based on what the context is, why they're showing up to speak, and what they actually want to get out of it as an end game. So don't take anything that I've seen as a literal translation and interpretation. It really is up to you, and it really is up to what you choose. You need to decide how you will measure being paid. Identify where you are and where you want to be on that investment continuum or that revenue generation continuum, and create a plan that's measurable, and measure yourself and improve and improve and improve until you get to the price point or the revenue generation point that you know you want to be at. The beauty in all of this is it doesn't matter where you sit, you can be and charge more.